What if the most dangerous thing happening in the Atlantic Division right now isn't the teams making moves, but the ones standing frozen in fear? Welcome back, everyone. Today we're dissecting a phenomenon that could reshape the entire Eastern Conference landscape, the psychology of desperation masquerading as ambition. The Atlantic Division has transformed into a pressure chamber where general managers are making billion-dollar decisions based on terror rather than strategy. Let's establish the battlefield conditions, because understanding the environment is absolutely critical to comprehending the madness we're witnessing. Right now, the Atlantic Division standings read like a hostage situation. 5 franchises are locked in a death grip for playoff positioning, each one knowing that a 3-game losing streak could send them spiraling from contender to lottery team. The Florida Panthers, fresh off back-to-back Stanley Cup final appearances, aren't just defending their territory, they're hunting. This is a team that knows exactly what championship hockey tastes like, and they're not about to let anyone forget it. Then we have the Toronto Maple Leafs, a franchise that exists in a perpetual state of existential crisis. They're currently 1 single point out of a playoff spot. 1 point. In a market like Toronto, that's not just a statistic. It's the difference between job security and unemployment, between hero worship and public execution. Since firing head coach Sheldon Keefe's successor Craig Berube... Wait, let me correct that timeline. Since the coaching change that saw them part ways with their previous bench boss, we've witnessed a team clawing back from the abyss. But here's the terrifying question that keeps Maple Leafs management awake at night. Is this resurgence real? Or is it just the temporary adrenaline rush of change before the inevitable collapse? The psychological warfare happening within these front offices cannot be overstated. When you're this close to the playoff cut line, every decision becomes magnified. Every potential move is analyzed through the lens of, what if we miss by 1 point? This creates a dangerous feedback loop where rational long-term planning gets sacrificed at the altar of short-term survival. History has shown us repeatedly that teams making decisions from a position of fear rather than strength tend to mortgage their futures for fleeting moments of hope. What makes this situation particularly volatile is the compressed timeline. We're not talking about a slow burn toward the trade deadline. We're talking about a sprint where every day that passes without action feels like opportunity slipping through your fingers. The March 6th trade deadline looms like a guillotine, and general managers across the division are frantically calculating whether they should be buyers, sellers, or the most dangerous category of all, desperate buyers who convince themselves they're one piece away from glory. Now, let's detonate the bomb that's been ticking in the background, the blockbuster trade rumors that could fundamentally alter the power structure of the entire division. According to respected NHL insider Frank Saravalli, 2 Atlantic Division powerhouses are targeting moves that would make seismic waves across the league. The Toronto Maple Leafs are reportedly circling Dougie Hamilton like sharks who've detected blood in the water, while the Detroit Red Wings have set their sights on none other than Elias Pettersson. Let's unpack the Toronto situation first, because it reveals so much about the organizational psychology of that franchise. Dougie Hamilton represents everything the Leafs have historically coveted: offensive firepower from the blue line, power play quarterbacking ability, and a name that generates headlines. But here's where we need to apply some critical analysis. Is this what Toronto actually needs? Or is this what Toronto thinks will satisfy their fanbase's hunger for star power? The Maple Leafs already possess one of the most offensively gifted rosters in the NHL. Their problem has never been scoring goals in October through December. Their Achilles heel has consistently been defensive structure, playoff intensity, and the ability to win ugly games when skill alone isn't enough. Hamilton, for all his considerable talents, is not a shutdown defenseman. He's not the guy you deploy against Connor McDavid in a playoff series when you need a stop. He's the guy who gets you 15 goals and 50 points from the back end, which is spectacular. But is that the missing ingredient in Toronto's recipe? This potential acquisition screams of a franchise that's learned nothing from its previous mistakes. Remember when they loaded up on offensive talent, convinced that outscoring their problems was a viable strategy? How did that work in the playoffs? The salary cap implications alone are staggering. Hamilton carries a significant cap hit, and adding that to Toronto's already top-heavy structure could create financial handcuffs that prevent them from addressing actual needs down the road. It's the classic trap of confusing exciting with necessary. Now pivot to Detroit, and the narrative shifts dramatically. The Red Wings pursuing Elias Pettersson isn't just a trade rumor, it's a declaration of intent. For years, Detroit has been the model of patient rebuilding. They've drafted well, developed prospects, and preached the gospel of sustainable growth. But there comes a moment in every rebuild where you have to transition from building for the future to competing in the present. This move would signal that Steve Yzerman believes that moment is now. Pettersson is a legitimate franchise center, the type of player who elevates everyone around him. If Detroit successfully acquires him, they instantly transform from interesting young team to legitimate playoff threat. But let's examine the cost. Vancouver isn't giving up Pettersson for spare parts and a second-round pick. We're talking about a package that would likely include multiple first-round selections, top prospects, and possibly a roster player. The Red Wings would be betting that their current core plus Pettersson equals playoff success, potentially sacrificing the depth and future assets that could sustain them for a decade. Compare this to historical precedents. When Columbus went all in at the 2019 deadline, acquiring Matt Duchene, Ryan Dzingel, and Adam McQuaid, they made a first-round sweep happen and then watched their rental players walk in free agency while the franchise descended back into mediocrity. The risk-reward calculation is brutal. If you swing for the fences and miss, you don't just lose the at-bat, you might lose the entire season and the next 3 after it. So, where does this leave the Montreal Canadiens in this high-stakes poker game? This is where Kent Hughes earns his salary. While division rivals are potentially lighting their futures on fire to win now, Montreal sits in a fascinating position. They're not quite ready to compete for a Stanley Cup, but they're also not in full teardown mode. The smart play here might be the hardest play: patience. If Toronto overpays for Hamilton and Detroit guts their prospect cupboard for Pettersson, the Canadiens could actually benefit from their rivals' desperation. Salary cap chaos creates opportunities. When teams overextend, they're forced to make difficult decisions down the road, decisions that could involve selling assets at discounted prices or losing players to waivers. Hughes has built a reputation as a calculated executive who doesn't get swept up in the emotional currents of the moment. This is his test. However, there's a counter-argument that deserves consideration. If both Toronto and Detroit significantly upgrade and establish themselves as perennial playoff teams, Montreal's path to contention becomes exponentially more difficult. The Atlantic Division is already a gauntlet. Adding superstar-level talent to 2 rivals could extend Montreal's competitive timeline by years. Sometimes the cost of an action is higher than the cost of a bold move. The March 6th trade deadline isn't just a date on the calendar, it's a referendum on organizational philosophy. Do you believe in the slow build, trusting your development system and draft picks? Or do you believe that windows of opportunity are fleeting and must be seized even at great cost? There's no objectively correct answer, which is what makes this so compelling. Here's what I know for certain. The next 6 weeks will define the next 5 years for multiple franchises in this division. Someone is going to make a move they regret. Someone is going to pass on an opportunity they'll wish they'd taken. And we're going to watch it all unfold in real time. Now, I need to hear from you because this is the kind of debate that defines fan bases. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Are the Leafs making a catastrophic mistake chasing Hamilton's offense when they need defensive structure? Is Detroit rushing their timeline? Or is Pettersson the exact catalyst they need? And most importantly, what should Kent Hughes do while this chaos swirls around him? Smash that like button if you're as obsessed with deadline drama as I am, and let's build this conversation together. The Atlantic Division arms race is just beginning, and I'll see you in the comments.